Hello, I'm David Murman with Great Lakes Sales Company, and here to talk today about thermal expansion tanks, something we all get excited about, I'm sure. So let's see, what do I want to tell you about? Why does one need one? How do you size one? Oh, how they're made. Okay, a little bit about the construction of them. And then I'll end with a couple of features that my brand, by Amtrol, has that sets it apart from some of the competition. But to begin with, why would one even want a thermal expansion tank? The easy answer is because the code requires it. But a more friendly answer, we'll say, would be it takes up the expanded water that is created in a closed system when water is heated. Basic physics says that when you heat water, it will expand. In the old days, when it expanded in your water heater, it just went back to your neighbor's house. It went back out into the main. But then in the early 90s, backflow prevention became a thing, to where now you have backflows, you have check valves in water meters. They effectively close the domestic water system in your house. So to take up that, if you don't take up the expanded water, you can build very large pressures. It's a lot of power there. The downside is it'll typically relieve out a relief valve somewhere back in the basement. You might not even notice it. But that's not a good thing, because the relief valve over time will foul up, and then it can become a dangerous situation. So what you have, or what we recommend, is a little thermal expansion tank. All I have is, what it really is an air space in the system to take up that expanded water. So the water and the pipes and so forth can't compress. This air will. So if the pressure on the water side becomes greater than the what we call pre-charge pressure in the tank, that will start filling the tank until the two sides are equalized. The air pressure has to equal the water pressure. So that's effectively what it does. Okay, how to size it? Well, again, the easy answer is you look at the little sizing card, and it tells you for a 40 or 50 gallon water heater, a 2-gallon ST5 is all you need. For a up to 120 gallon water heater, the next size, the 4.4 gallon ST12, will do the trick. Now, how did they get there? Well, the engineers look and they say, okay, there's X amount of water in the system. Typically, the biggest part of that is the water heater itself. And then you know what your incoming temperature is. Around here in the winter time, it's about 40 degrees, believe it or not. What your set point is on your water heater, residential, usually 120. Restaurants and so forth, it'll be 140. But that tells you then what percentage, going from one temperature to the other, what percentage will that water increase? It could be like, I think it comes to like as much as 1.5% on a 100-degree rise. Then the other thing, you look at the amount of water. If it expands that much, you need how big of an airspace to take up that water and keep the pressure within a reasonable area. So you don't want to go over 80 pounds, because that's where, actually, you don't want to go over 150 pounds, and we actually typically design to be like 15% below that. And then you have to figure your pre-charge. And that goes to the install part of the equation, if you will. All the tanks come with a air charge in them. You want to change that air charge to whatever your city pressure is, or a couple of pounds below it. Works fine. If you don't, you run the risk that you have effectively undersized your tank. You're trying to put more water in it than it can hold, because you can see here, the water area is a little less than half of the total capacity. So it's important that you change the air charge. The other important thing is, where does it go? It typically goes on the cold water inlet to the water heater. We like it on the cold side, because that way the expanded water is on the cold side. You're not putting hot water into the tank and so forth, and letting that water cool inside the tank. The orientation is, I'll say, important. For years, well, we still recommend that you hang it from the pipe downward, if you will. And that way, it allows some of our special features to work, such as our indicator cap. But it also takes the least amount of pressure off the structure of the tank. Now, if you want to do it horizontal, above, any other orientation, you can, but you need to strap it. Actually, it's going to be in the code soon. You need to support it from something other than the piping. And from what I understand, in another year or two, that's going to be in the code anyway. So you might as well start strapping it now if you're going to do it horizontal. So I think that covers, okay, where you put it, how you put it, get your pre-charge right. So then the last thing I was going to say is a couple of the features of an Amtrol, an ST5 or ST12, for example, that most of our competitors are from offshore. Not necessarily bad, but they haven't copied everything, we'll say. In particular, the Amtrol has an antimicrobial material in the liner. Okay, so that will kill any bacteria on contact. It also comes with what we call a turbulator, which one is supposed to shove into the fitting before it goes in. That'll catch a little bit of water and keep this thing flushed out. That's a neat thing. It'll keep that water from getting stagnant and always be fresh and clean. We come with a 50-pound pre-charge. That's closer to most city pressures. A lot of your customers don't know that they should be changing the pre-charge. Many of the competitors come with like a 30-pound pre-charge. With that, if they don't change the pre-charge, that tank's going to fail prematurely. The final thing I believe that I want to point out is the indicator cap. As long as it's, if the diaphragm breaks, water's going to go down to the steel side of the tank, my little white cap's going to turn a rusty red color, and I know by eyesight that I've got a failure and it needs to be changed. So those are the one more sizing thing I forgot about. I talked about a 40-50 gallon water heater. I talked about a larger water heater. You're selling more and more tankless water heaters. If this is good for a 50 gallon, what do you need for a tankless water heater that has all of what? A pint? So we have an ST1, which is perfect for a tankless water heater, and easy to install, very small, and becoming very popular. No pre-charge. It's already preset with at the factory to as long as your incoming pressure is less than 80 pounds, you're good to go. So that's the basics of a thermal expansion tank.